Okay, so I do think women are underrepresented in certain areas of medicine. Nowadays, not so much, but in subspecialties like surgery and orthopedics, women are underrepresented, and there's not as much pay given to women, and there's not as many positions open, more preferences given to men in those areas. But I personally haven't been affected by gender discrimination yet, but I'm only a first year, so we'll see as I progress through the years.
I don't personally think that there's any sort of gender equality in medical school. For example, my class is pretty much 50-50 men and women, and I don't think that it's really very much of an issue anymore. Maybe historically it was more of an issue, but I think now we're definitely moving towards gender equality.
But yeah, our school does take affirmative action. We do try to acknowledge where the flaws are and deal with them in specific workshops. As you mentioned, we did have a PCM workshop on white privilege. So definitely one of the privileges has to do with gender. And it is something that is, again, very subtle, so you have to be careful of it. But yes, it's something that we're made aware of, and we try and be wary of.
So we do have a chapter of AMWA, which is the American Medical Women's Association. It's a national organization, but we have a chapter here at TCMC, and they definitely focus on women in medicine. They encourage women to pursue any sort of field that they would want to, and they also allow women to, or female medical students to connect to mentors who are in any sort of field and develop a network. But other than that, we haven't really heard a lot about gender inequality or anything like that in school. So there are definitely some specialties that are very male-dominated. For example, we had a surgeon come talk to us last week who referred to surgery as a fraternity, something that historically has been really difficult for women to break into. And one thing he mentioned was that women tend to prioritize family planning and trying to fit that into their medical education and residency, whereas men don't really have to think about that as much. So that might be a huge deterrent for women who want to enter certain fields like surgery.
I think the hardest part in terms of women fulfilling their full potential within a medical career is just wanting to have that balance between the family life and personal life and career. I think it's a lot more difficult for, say, like a woman who already has kids in medical school because, you know, I hate to say it, but it's less likely that the guy, like the husband is going to be home taking care of the kids. So unless you have a lot of family help, it's kind of a lot more unrealistic.
Yeah, I do think it discourages women from trying out different specialties. Like, for example, me personally, I think I'm less willing to try surgery just because I know it's way more competitive and most men go into that field. So I think, me personally, I might not even consider surgery just because it's harder to get into and you have to spend so much money and time into going into those specialties, and I don't really have that. So I would go into a less competitive field.
I can't speak to the question about compensation because that I don't really know. I know in general men tend to make more than females, so I assume that would be the same in the profession of medicine. But at the institution I worked at previously, the chair of the department was a female, and they had basically equal male to female ratio in terms of attending, so I think in terms of career advancement it's an equal playing field.
Okay, so I think personally maybe the guys do get paid more, but I like to think that we've progressed enough that they would value someone's skill set over another, and I think people are moving in the right direction. So by the time I get into that field, I think we'll just be paid equally according to what merits we have.